So we got this video from Knox Hill. It's addressing Kendrick Lamar and Ice Cube beef. We need to talk about Kendrick and Ice Cube. That's the title of the video. One of the more respected YouTube reactors, Knox Hill. Pretty dope MC too. You know, he got a couple of CDs and whatnot. But I recommend if you're into hip hop, go to Knox Hill page, subscribe to his page. But we finna get right into this video. See what's going on between K Dot and the OG Ice Cube.
Is there actually beef or possible friction between Ice Cube and Kendrick Lamar? Now look, we all know the Lil Wayne response that Kendrick had on Whacked Out Murals, but following up those lines, he also said this.
Won a Super Bowl and I'm the only one. Congratulate me. All these niggas agitated. I'm just glad they outdated. Old ass flows trying to convince me that you they favorite.
Old ass flows trying to convince me that you're their favorite. Now, if you look at that in context to the bars, Nas the only one to congratulate me, it really feels like obviously Kendrick is upset. He's expressing his frustration on wax about who is congratulating him. But it feels like that frustration and that expression in relation to Lil Wayne, in relation to Nas, in relation to Snoop Dogg, along the lines of thinking on these verses, it would make sense that he's lamenting that he's not getting a lot of love, a lot of congratulations from OGs in hip-hop. And
To be honest with you, when they had that passing down the torch to K Dot, Cube should have been on stage too. You know, it really should have been Ice-T passing it to Ice Cube, passing it to Snoop, passing it to The Game, then passing it to K Dot. But niggas act like they forgot about Cube.
definitely feel that bitterness in his old ass flows and the outdated statements, which then leads us to, well, besides Lil Wayne, who is he talking about with these old ass flows? Who is he talking about in relation to the Super Bowl in terms of not getting his props, not getting his flowers? Who would upset Kendrick Lamar by not giving him congratulations? So there's our setup. Now let's jump into an interview that DJ Who Kid did on his podcast with Ice Cube, talking specifically about Kendrick Lamar and about the Super Bowl.
Kendrick is doing
Okay.
Super Bowl. You stated in an interview that you wouldn't want to be like a guest. You would want to do it on your own. But if Kendrick wanted you to come, would you pop out?
Pop out.
I don't know. You know, I mean, off my first instincts, I don't want to be a guest.
Hell yeah, he'll show up. How could you not? It's the Super Bowl, bro. And if K Dot was to humble himself enough to put all the bullshit to the side to even approach you or call you to ask, ain't no way you can. I mean, just my opinion. We grown ass men. Sometimes you gotta let shit go. Ain't been no blood spill between Cube and K Dot. Wherever this beef started at, I'm sure we're gonna find out. I'm sure Knox Hill done cover some dirt, but whatever it is, you're gonna have to let it go, bro.
You know, either I'm gonna do it or I'm not.
That's ill.
I've done Super Bowl events off to the side, like
Yeah.
Super Bowl party, this, that, and the other, but I wasn't a guest. It was Ice Cube Super Bowl party. You want me on the Super Bowl? Ice Cube Super Bowl.
Crazy.
I'll bring a guest, a few.
For me, it's that instinctual response, which I think is a tell. It's that just obvious lack of enthusiasm to start with. Now let's take a look at some of these comments and how people are reading into Cube's response to all this. Only Nas congratulated type of energy. That's ego. I'm a real big Cube fan too, but his reasoning is all ego-based. I mean, he did just drop a song about his ego, talking also about Kendrick Lamar on that. Old ass flows trying to convince me that you they favorite. Here's the whacked out mural quotes flying left and right throughout the comments. This is
Yeah, that ego song. That's what I was referring to. He got a new album, and he got the video for My Ego, and the video kind of lit. He got everybody, all the old. He got Day Day in there. A lot of people from the Friday movies made cameos. A lot of different people. It's pretty cool. You should check it out. I'm a real Ice
This is
Cube
why
fan.
Kendrick stepped on his album release. And I remember speaking about this in my Whacked Out Murals breakdown. I do think that the timing of GNX is very interesting, whatever you want to say, because at the end of the day, it's not like we have a ton of examples of Ice Cube hating on Kendrick, of Kendrick having issues with Ice Cube. No, if anything, Ice Cube has always given love, shown respect to Kendrick. Kendrick has always returned that love, returned that energy. But sometimes actions speak louder than words. And for me, you have an example of an artist who's going to release an album. That album was pre-announced. It has a set release date. I'm talking about Man Down. Now look, scheduling conflicts happen. I get it. But you mean to tell me that an iconic West Coast artist like Ice Cube, that nobody in Kendrick's camp is going to be aware when Kendrick drops that he's dropping on the same day as Ice Cube? And it's not like Kendrick pre-announced. He surprise dropped his album on the exact same day. And whether it was intentional or not, you can't deny that surprise dropping on the same day as another artist isn't stepping on their toes, especially when it comes to Kendrick Lamar, because that album is going to be so anticipated. That album is going to get so much attention coming out of the Drake beef, and Kendrick knows that obviously it's going to cast shade and it's going to take away from Ice Cube's release in relation to West Coast hip hop.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of a crazy move. You know, it's supposed to be all about the West right now, right? Why would you step on Ice Cube toes? Ice Cube, I mean, ain't no way. Ain't no way. They had to been premeditated that he was like, fuck it. You know, he could have gave him a week, 2 weeks, something, a month. Okay, that was like, fuck that. There got to be something there. Got to be.
And I don't want to get this twisted because I think this is a very nuanced conversation. And to balance this out, let's go look at a recent interview that Ice Cube did talking about Kendrick.
And another person who, you know, you mentioned, you referenced Kendrick on the song.
I was Kendrick before Kendrick, rock and roll Hall of Famer like Jimi Hendrix.
But seeing how he's been able to do the same thing.
That's the video right there. That's the one I was talking about.
Where he's, you know.
And Q came out in an interview, said that he wasn't dissing, said that it was homage. So we'll just put that there.
Played within the system to a degree, but he's been himself. He hasn't conformed his art. He's made sure to remain true to himself. And he's, you know, Snoop was talking about how Kendrick took the crown, or took the throne, right? It wasn't like anyone really passed him the torch. They gave it, but he came and took the torch. So what's it been like?
And he's referring right there, Jeremy, is to that show where Snoop came out, Corrupt came out, Game came out, and they passed the West Coast torch symbolically on to Kendrick. And
I forgot Corrupt. No shade to that, because Corrupt, one of my favorite MCs ever. Above Ice Cube, above Snoop. So I didn't mean to leave Corrupt out. Corrupt, top 3 ever. Real OG.
And what I think is interesting is you want to talk about like OGs who might not be congratulating Kendrick and from the West Coast, how Kendrick can feel slighted. Well, Game was there. Game passed the torch. Game's even been on tracks with Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar has shown Game love before. And then for whatever reason, obviously when the Drake beef happens, Game's running around sharing Drake lyrics, quoting Energy. You could see which side that he was taking. So if you...
The Game jealous. I think he a little jealous of Kendrick's success. He a little jealous that he's Dr. Dre's new protege. You know, he wanted that to be him. I think sometimes the Game be a little full of himself. You know, but that's probably what got him to where he at. But a little humility goes a long way also.
I want to talk about West Coast OGs moving weirdly for Kendrick and upsetting him. I could definitely see that being references to Game within Whacked Out Murals. But there's still this Ice Cube there. We're not going to let this go just yet. Let's keep it running.
See his rise from that moment where he, you know, quote unquote, took the throne of the West Coast and took it to the world.
I mean, it gives, you know, original artists hope, you know, artists that won't conform but want to get a message out, want to get their music out in the way they see it. So to see him win, to see him have such a, you know, a big year, and see him, you know, jump into the battles, you know, that's another way you can solidify yourself out here is step up to the challenge of the battles that ensue. It's the, essence of the art. Most of us came up battle rapping people at school and shit, and quads and, hallways.
And
And,
lunch tables.
yeah, and honing our skills against other MCs, that's, it's like sparring to a fighter. So when you see guys get into the big arena and actually fight for real, lyrically,
Yeah.
it gets the juices going of the culture, because
Yeah.
everybody love to see a heavyweight fight.
And that's what we're witnessing right now with the Joey Badass response. And then obviously Ray Vaughn responding. Daylight responding, right? It's sharpening pens right now. It's sharpening minds.
So to see him step up, battle multiple people with multiple songs, it was something that we had never seen before. It was pretty, it was like fucking Bruce Lee in Game of Death. I don't know if y'all seen that. Where he, just going up, whooping ass all the way up the tower.
Love that
what I'm
reference.
saying? He at the top of the tower. Everybody ass kicked under him. You know what I'm
And
saying?
then he still hasn't said a word.
Yeah, so that's what it was like. It was a beautiful sight to see.
I loved.
It was a beautiful sight to see. Now, look, there's going to be people that are going to look at this interview and they'll go, well, there's a lack of enthusiasm when Ice Cube is talking about Kendrick. But if you look at previous Cube interviews, he always keeps it cool. And the other thing about Cube is, like, you never know kind of what he's going to say or what his opinion is going to be on a situation. He likes to stand out. He likes to be a maverick in a lot of ways. So that's kind of on par for Cube. But
Cube, keep a poker face. Cube always keep his poker face on. I always think back to that interview he did with what's the show? Coffee with Queens with Vivica Fox and Selena Johnson and them. They tried to decapitate you. They tried to decapitate Cube on women topics and shit. And Cube kept it cool and calm, We all should practice that.
But what I'm getting at is that here's an example of a recent interview, because we just broke down another recent interview with Who Kid where Cube is giving Kendrick respect and acknowledging that Kendrick won the battle. Now, is Cube like deep diving into the artistry and the impact of Kendrick, or is he just showing respect and sort of tipping the cap to someone who obviously won a battle? Well, that can be debated. But the important thing is that we have the background now. And this is where I want to insert nuance into the conversation, something that the internet often fails to deal with and will run away and just hyper sensationalize everything. Do I personally think that there's beef between Kendrick Lamar and Ice Cube? No, I don't. For everything that Kendrick in this album stands for, this celebration of the West Coast, of West Coast sounds, right? Taking cuts, taking samples from the Bay, shouting out LA, just combining the rich hip-hop cultures of the West Coast and infusing them into this album. Everything that Kendrick is making a point about right now and celebrating the West. It doesn't make sense for Kendrick to actively go after a legend in that space, a legend who has influenced him, a legend who he has shouted out many times before. But that still doesn't mean that Kendrick can't be disappointed in some of the things that Ice Cube does. Much in the same way that
The thing about that, ain't no way if you grew up in L.A., I don't live nowhere close to L.A., but when Ice Cube broke away from NWA, even when he was with NWA, he was the standout of the group. When he broke away from NWA, Ice Cube was the Drake of the time. He was the man. He was the top tier artist in America. When Ice Cube album dropped, when America's Most Wanted dropped, everybody stopped what they was doing and went to go listen. When Death Certificate dropped, everybody stopped what they was doing to go listen. Ice Cube was the hardest rapper. I'm talking about the most gangsterous. You just we wouldn't be where we are today. We wouldn't have gangster rap today if it wasn't for Ice Cube and Eazy-E. And Ice Cube wrote Eazy-E raps. So put that in perspective one time for your mind.
That maybe I have a disagreement with my brother at Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm disappointed in something that he does. It doesn't mean I don't love my brother. It doesn't mean that I don't look out for him. I feel like there's always going to be that mutual respect between Kendrick and Ice Cube. And it doesn't just go Kendrick's way. I do genuinely feel like Ice Cube respects Kendrick Lamar, the artistry that he brings, and what he represents and how important he is for the West Coast. You wouldn't call yourself and relate yourself to Kendrick on a track if there wasn't respect there. But this is hip hop, and as much as there is community, there's also competition. And ego and pride also can get in the way. And I don't want to ignore the themes from GNX, especially tracks like Man at the Garden, where Kendrick says that he wants it all. And it really feels like, even on Whacked Out Murals, if you step back and look at one of the meta themes, there is clearly Kendrick focusing on his legacy. Kendrick wanting dominance, not just to be considered number one of this big three of the here and now. You can see Kendrick is now going for number one of all time. And that's just the energy that he's on. That's just the confidence, the composure that he's exuding. He's like a warrior monk on the tracks right now. He's at peace, but he's ready for conflict and war no matter who it is. And he's going to fight and spar and jab and do whatever he has to do lyrically to show and to flex his way up to the top. And that might rub some people the wrong way. It might even rub allies the wrong way. That's going to happen. That's just the nature of it. And I can't sit back and ignore the timing of surprise dropping GNX on the same day as Ice Cube. It doesn't feel like a diss to Ice Cube, but what it does feel like it could be behind the scenes is a little bit of a power move. And I can't help but wonder how Kendrick felt when first hearing the lines from Ice Cube, "I was Kendrick before Kendrick." Because think about the spirit of competition. Think about the time and energy that Kendrick is on. You think he's going to take it well that someone says that they did it before he did it?
He didn't lie, though. And I don't think it was a diss. I didn't feel like he dissed. He just had to remind people. You know, we got a whole generation of listeners now that some of them wasn't even alive when Ice Cube was top. You know? Some of them, I mean, some of them, even if they was alive, they wasn't recognizing what was going on in the music industry. They just know it's a song on the radio that they like, but they wasn't there for the whole NWA saga. They wasn't there for the 100 miles and running, for the no Vaselines, you know. So I don't see nothing wrong with him reminding people. I mean, sometimes you got to let people know. Now, could he have said it in a different way? Maybe. But the way he said it, I don't see any disrespect. But when it comes to Kendrick, it seems like you can't mention his name. You can't mention his name at all. You know, he gonna take some type of he gonna take disrespect to it. He kind of got that Michael Jordan thing about him. They say Michael, if you watch The Last Dance, they say Michael Jordan would find any little reason that because you spoke to him and you didn't say, you know, the way you spoke to him, you gave him a head nod. Oh, okay, that's what's up. Boom, go drop 40 on your ass. Seems like Kendrick got that same kind of motivation.
They were him before him. It would make sense for Kendrick to drop and go, okay, you say you're me before me? Well, do the numbers that I'm doing now. Show that you're like me. Let me show you and flex my power move and let you know about my legacy. Let you know about my standing here and now within hip hop. And just kind of a little way and a little nod. And like I said, a subtle power move of, Cube, I respect you. You've done what you've done, but I'm going to put you in your place. And I'm going to show you where you are right now. This is my time. I'm shining, and I'm taking this. And I don't see anything wrong with that. Friends often compete with each other. Family often competes with each other.
Kendrick could have done that a month later. I mean, no matter when he dropped, he was going to sell more than Ice Cube, you know. Ice Cube, I appreciate him dropping this album for his hardcore fans, for the long-time listeners, you know, for the people that appreciate the that type thing, but Kendrick could have dropped 2 months later. He still was gonna sell 3 times as many as Ice Cube, 4 times as many. He still would have had his bragging rights, and he didn't have to shit on him in the process. This to me is like, let's say Joey Badass shitting on Grandmaster Flash, or stifling his album sales because he dropping a new album. He gonna come out with his the same day. Now, you gotta pay respect to the people that paved the way. That's just my opinion.
We do
I
compete
would've
with
gave him
people
their
that we
respect.
love, and there are moments and times and instances when we may move in a certain way to just show where we are position-wise, and it feels to me like that's the nuance of what Kendrick is doing here.
Something like this though, you can't really take it back. I mean, the album sales translate to money in the pocket, type shit, and you kind of hindering the man's ability to make bread for his family. I mean, I know Cube not hurting for money. We know that. But, it's kind of, if this album flops because everybody's paying attention to Kendrick, that's hurting his legacy. It is hurting his investment, the time and money that he's spending to the album. So, if Cube was upset about that, I could see why. I really could.
And that's Kendrick's pride. That's Kendrick's ego. That's Kendrick's confidence. All things that he's talked about and he's discussed throughout GNX. And Cube also has his ego. Cube also has his pride. Hence why when he's asked about playing at the Super Bowl, which would be an amazing opportunity to step up and to continue to put on and just to connect the legacies of the West Coast, well, Cube thinks about himself. He gives you his raw, unfiltered, typical Cube knee-jerk reaction, but it just doesn't make sense in his world and how he sees things. It feels like a step down for him. It feels like he's coming down. And again, that's his ego speaking and stepping up there in that situation. Doesn't mean that he has beef with Kendrick. Doesn't mean that he's looking for drama with Kendrick. No. For Cube, he just doesn't see it from that perspective, from that world. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Cube is low-key hating? Do you think that there's a little bit of friction and something more there? Do you think it could bubble over? Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions on this. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting story I wanted to weigh in on and give it a little bit more coverage. But as always, thanks for being here, guys.
So yeah, Knox here, like I said, always great reactions. I check him out time to time, and I do subscribe to the channel. But I just don't see a way that Cube could turn that down. And I really think Kendrick should extend that to him. That would be dope if he had him come out perform a verse off of My Ego. And let's say Kendrick came with added a verse to it on the same beat. That would be dope. That would be dope. But, I'm a dreamer. I can dream, kinda. Ice Cube, my childhood favorite rapper. K-Dot, my current favorite rapper. Hey, maybe dreams do come true, though. I'm hold out hope.